I've had an update on my medical application. For those of you that don't know, very quickly, I'm currently medically grounded, not allowed to fly as pilot in command. But I had an email from our regulator, CASA, this morning, and the fact that I just landed in London yesterday and I'm here for 2 weeks means the timing of that email was just not great. I'll let you know what I've been doing. I want to talk to you about my flying, but I also want to get out there and have a bit of a look around my old hometown of London. One big problem though, it's chucking it down outside. It's not a very nice day. I do have a raincoat, so allow me to give you an update on my medical and take you around my old hood as well at the same time in the rain. I decided to wait out the weather in my hotel room, so I had some bourbon biscuits for breakfast, but eventually the rain band passed, so I headed out, got myself a coffee. And now I'm heading off to get some breakfast. To be honest with you, probably a second coffee. I'm not going to speak for everybody because I know some people have had some serious issues with regulators in their region, but I don't want to turn this into a I'm in the right, CASA's in the wrong conversation, because it's not. This is very much like most things in life, that there are two sides to the story, but one decision has to be made. But let me give you a bit of an update of what's been happening, because a little bit has changed since I updated you last time. Now not the last email I received, because I'll tell you about that in a second, that was this morning. In the second last email I got from CASA, this was the email that they told me they wanted to cancel my aviation medical. Obviously pretty harsh for me to hear that. But to their credit, they did say that they were giving me what's called a show cause period, a period of time in which I can appeal their decision. Now, CASA gave me 3 reasons in that email as to why they thought that I couldn't operate an aircraft safely as pilot in command. So it was my job at that point to then go through those 3 reasons and basically put together an appeal that states that I didn't believe that those 3 reasons were valid. Now, not being a medical expert myself, I'm not in a place to be able to say, no, CASA, you're wrong. I am fine to fly based on those reasons. I don't know, I'm not trained in that stuff. So what I did recently was actually go and see a new specialist who went through those 3 reasons and gave me their insight and their professional opinion as to whether they thought that those reasons were valid or not. So here I am at St Vincent's Hospital here in Melbourne. I've got my little, hang on a minute. Yes, cinematic mode on the iPhone makes it look so much more dramatic. I've got my letter from CASA, and so what I'm doing here is I'm seeing a specialist. He's going to give me his expert opinion, and hopefully his letter will state that in his opinion, CASA have no need to be concerned about those particular, actually hang on, cinematic mode is too dramatic. And in his opinion, he'll hopefully state that he doesn't have similar concerns. Let's see what he says.
Level 1.
That went really well. I had a bunch of neurological tests, which I'm getting really used to now. We went through a whole bunch of other stuff as well, my history, my family's medical history, and now this specialist who, as you can probably tell, I don't want to name because I want to respect their privacy, but they are going to put together their own assessment as well and send that to CASA. And wait again. We're always waiting. This is all about waiting. Just a side note, is anyone also super excited about this? I'm very much unashamedly into Downton Abbey. I'm very excited about this movie coming out. Apparently it's the final one they're going to make. So sad, we'll never see Donk again. I took that information from the new specialist then. I also added my own cover letter to the top, resubmitted it back to CASA within their show cause period. And then once again, as I've done with all of this process, is I waited. Trouble was, it's kind of my mistake, and this is on me, but I was waiting a little bit too long. I'll explain why in a second. This, by the way, is where I'm going for breakfast, and I'm hiding here in the bushes so they don't see me filming this bit. Because even after all these years, I still don't like filming stuff like this in public. Anyway, let's get some food, and I'll continue the story as to why some of this waiting was actually my fault. That show cause period that I was telling you about before, originally CASA gave me 21 days to respond. I asked to have that extended to 60 days, which they said yes to, and I responded within that 60-day period. I think it was probably about halfway through. So there was still 30 days left in that period of appeal, which I assumed that they wouldn't take into account when I submitted my appeal. However, you should never assume things, and I was completely wrong. And what it meant was that they received all the information, and I sat back and I waited a week, waited another week, until I actually discovered But the reason why they weren't getting back to me was because the show cause period was still active. They were waiting for that 60 days in its entirety to be taken up before then looking at my claim. So one big reason why I have been waiting again the last few months was actually because of me, my own stupid fault. I should have said to them, here is the information, please end my appeal period now. But because I didn't do that, well, I kind of lost about another 2 or 3 weeks. This whole part of the process, I'll be honest with you, actually got me down a little bit. I mean, here I was making YouTube videos, always talking about how I'm waiting. I hate having to wait. It's been 1.5 years. I don't want to wait any longer. When in this situation, I was the one that was causing the waiting to happen. I should have either read the email from CASA in more detail, or I should have spoken to someone about how that appeal period was up to me to end. That's on me. And knowing that and feeling, to be honest, I can sometimes be quite negative towards myself, but knowing that that was my fault, it affected me. And there have been times throughout this whole period since having my surgery last year, you know, I'm in my early 50s, I've had a great career flying, I've really enjoyed it a lot, and there have been times when I've thought about throwing the whole thing away. And this, to be honest, was one of those times as well. However, that all changed when I went to an event a couple of weeks ago called the Australian Aviation Awards. Now, as is usually the case at these big social events with lots of people there, I can sometimes get a little bit anxious, and so what I do is I look for a friend who I can hang out with for the entire event, and thankfully for me, Shannon was there. Now, I've flown with Shannon a lot in the past, and she was the one at the event who kept saying to me, so when you're coming back to the airport again, when are you going to fly again? When are we going to fly together again? We should do a video together. We should do. And that reminded me how, not that I needed a reminder, but honestly, it was a kick up the arse to remind me of how much I love this stuff. I said, why don't we maybe do a bit of formation flying together just like the old days? And so we took Echo Yankee Zulu, we took Kilo Juliet November, and we just had no other objective than to spend an afternoon with mates, just enjoying the world of aviation again. So what's the latest information from CASA then, and why am I frustrated at this latest email that they've sent me? Well, they sent me an email this morning as I'm recording this, and I landed in London at Heathrow yesterday. The reason why it's frustrating is because they're asking me to do something which I cannot physically do whilst I am here in London. My Aviation Medical, as I mentioned in the last video, wasn't actually cancelled entirely, it was just put on pause. And what CASA were willing to do was, if they agree that I'm ready to fly again, they were going to unpause my medical and I'll just be able to continue to fly under the old medical that I had. My only issue is my current medical expired. So there is no medical for them to potentially unpause. And what they want me to do is obviously to therefore go ahead and do a whole new medical exam, which I'm fine about. I have no issue doing that whatsoever, and I'm sure that I'll be fine with it and there'll be no problems that come up. But the trouble is, my medical examiner is obviously not here in London, but back home in Melbourne. And so I now have to wait one more time, hopefully just one more time, to get back home, do the medical exam, submit that to CASA, and then see what they say at that point. This whole North London, Highbury, Islington, Camden, Holloway, you know, I used to hang out in these areas a lot when I was younger. Probably drunk at every single pub down this street at some point in my life, which is a flex and I am proud of it. But it's changed a lot since I was here. You know, there were like matcha bars on the corner. This place was pretty dangerous in the old days. Now it's, well, it's changed a lot, like for the better.
So the next steps for me from this point are actually quite straightforward. First of all, and most importantly, I'm going to spend the next 2 weeks here in London just enjoying this brilliant town and spending time with friends and family. And then when I get back to Australia, of course, I've already booked in my medical. It's a couple of days after I land, and I'll get that assessment done and we'll once again submit that to CASA. And then, as always, it's back in their hands again and we wait.
Now, I don't want this to be a me versus the regulator thing. Again, I want to make that point because we need a regulator in aviation, but a regulator needs to have processes that they should follow. And processes are an important part of the aviation world. If you don't like processes, I don't think you should be in aviation.
My concern comes down to when medical experts who know way more about the details of an individual's situation provide research-backed information and their own expertise to say that that person is medically fit to fly. When that's not taken into account, I feel that's unfair on the individual involved.
And for me, and probably for a lot of pilots out there as well who've had problems with the regulator in the past, this comes down to a question of control. And when you like being a pilot in command, the command bit's the important bit. When you don't have that command, when you don't have that control, I think that's when the process gets frustrating. I also think there's an opportunity for me to abuse this platform now and say to CASA, because you are probably watching this video as well, do you know I did run a PB in the Brighton Half Marathon recently? So, you know, if you're worried about my overall fitness and medical state, I'm in good shape right now.